What's up, guys? Rick here with your Jock Market preview for this week's BMW Championship. If you haven't played Jock Market before, it's stock market DFS. You can buy, sell short shares of athletes, in this case, golfers. So I'm going to take you through this week's event and look at some possible really good investments. Before we look ahead to Wilmington Country Club, let's look back for 1 second for the FedEx St. Jude, just to kind of put this into perspective of how all this works. So Will Zalatoris last week IPO'd. That's the bidding process that happens on Wednesdays. You bid, and if you are one of the high bidders, those shares are allocated to you, or you could have just bought shares at any point during the event. He went for $7.33 a share last week. Because of the guaranteed payouts, he received $25 a share of value after his victory. So that means you made $17 of profit per every share that you had of Will Zalatoris. And I know what you're saying, Rick, he was 25-1 last week. Shouldn't I have just played him outright? Sure. But if you would have finished second, you would have gotten nothing. Sepp Straka finished second, and in the Jock Market was a huge winner because he got the $20 a share payout. Sepp Straka went for $2 a share last week. So a ton of volatility, especially when you get to these no-cut events where all of these guys are kind of playing well. There's only 68 golfers in the field. There's just going to be these really valuable golfers like Brian Harman last week who went for $420. Finished at $18 a share. Lucas Glover, $256 to $16 a share. So there's going to be a lot of room for guys who don't win the golf tournament to show up and return you a lot of profit per share. Looking at it this week, so remember, there's only 68 golfers. It's a no-cut event. The payout structure is tweaked just a little bit. So instead of 80 golfers basically making over $1, it's down to 49 golfers making over $1, which makes sense because we have the much smaller field here. So when we start to look at the top of the board and using the pre-ranks, well, what stands out to me? Well, I think one of the big question marks is going to be Rory Mcilroy. He was the most expensive golfer in the Jock Market last week. He went for $10.22 a share, and he missed the cut, which is certainly going to impact what he goes for this week. I think I'm willing to forgive Rory, right? I mean, you look at his last 20 cash markets, he's returning an average of 26% ROI. He's got a couple of victories along the way. And even when he doesn't win, he seems to turn you a profit. We heard him mention that he didn't pick up his golf clubs for 2 weeks after the Open Championship. It was a lot of time for him to knock the rust off last week in Memphis. And he only missed the cut by a shot, right? So I think that all things considered, it was like Rory's D+ game. He still almost beat half the field, getting him back to a golf course that should really allow him to just freewheel it off the tee, get back to the way he was playing over the summer, and especially because there's going to be a lot of jaded investors of Rory Mcilroy from last week that are probably going to shy away from him this week. I don't necessarily envision him being by far the most expensive golfer in the cash market like he was last week in Memphis. If you want another buy low opportunity, I'd consider Xander Schofley. So again, another disappointing finish last week, but you could argue the advanced metrics were a little bit of outliers and it's probably not going to happen again. He had his worst ball striking week in over 4 years. You could, kind of translate that a couple of different ways. If you say, hey, that's not going to happen again, I think he's going to bounce back. I think this is probably one of the best markets to get access to Xander Schofley in. Do you want to bet him outright in a short field against all the studs in the world at short odds? Probably not. Do you want him to just outperform his expectation, which is what the ask is in the Jock Market, and you give him guaranteed 4 rounds? We know that he's been just kind of this no-cut master over the years. He's back on bent grass. He's going to have really good history when he gets to East Lake next week. So it's like a really good time of year for Xander Schofley. You could argue he's probably one of the best buy low candidates. The fair value on him as of right now is $5.19, the 13th pre-ranked golfer. If I could get him as the 13th most expensive golfer in the Jock Market, I think I'd be thrilled because his upside is certainly higher than that. And I think his floor comes back to normal Xander Schofley levels this week. You want to see the most disrespected guy in the jock market? It's got to be Matt Fitzpatrick, who again last week turned you a profit, 69% ROI, $5.34 a share, which now marks the fourth time in his last 5 markets that he has turned a profit. His 6th time in the last 8 markets that he's turned you a profit. The 8th time in his last do the math, Rick, 11 markets, right? He is just constantly outperforming his expectations. And these are with top 5s, top 10s, top 20s. It just seems like when the best players in the world get together, users in the market, investors in the market are much more enamored with Rory Mcilroy and Jon Rahm and Justin Thomas and Colin Morikawa and Scotty Scheffler and all these guys that are not named Matt Fitzpatrick, because Matt Fitzpatrick doesn't do anything sexy except he gains across the board. His floor is incredibly high. He's much longer now than he's ever been. The game is super sharp. Obviously, he added a major championship to the resume this year. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but we'll let the numbers speak for themselves. He is constantly returning you a profit. And there's little expectation to think that he's not going to do it again this week, especially when so many great golfers get together and Fitzpatrick is probably the forgotten entity near the top of the board. We can flip this around to look at the leaderboard and sort by average ROI and find some guys that are going to be even deeper values. You know, Kurt Kitayama is here. Kurt Kitayama has the second best average ROI of anybody in this field over the last 10 markets without a win. Right? That's the big key here. Average IPO 339, average payout 626. Now, what you'll notice about this is that he's only turned you a profit in 4 out of 10 of those markets. So if you're investing in Kurt Kitayama and you want to add him to your portfolio, he's like a tech stock. Right? A tech stock where some weeks he is going to blast off and have an unbelievable week, and sometimes he's just going to slump, and sometimes he is going to lose you money. He is not one of these blue chip, top 50 stocks that every single week wins you a little bit. Like that's not what Kurt Kitayama is. He's more of a tech stock. The guys that win you more frequently, there are probably only a handful. Yeah, there's only a handful of guys that have won in 7 out of 10 markets. It's Aaron Wise, Emiliano Grillo, Joo Hyung Kim, JT Poston, and Tony Finau. What's most impressive about Tony Finau is you can see he's obviously doing it at a much higher IPO, $7.30 on average compared to these other guys that are in the 3s, 4s, and $5 of average IPO. So that's even more impressive from Tony Finau and what he's been able to do. But those are the big 5 in terms of returning you a profit consistently. And then let's analyze the big dogs here for a second. So these are sorted by average IPO in the last 10. So these are the most expensive golfers. Rory McIlroy, we already talked about him. He's been phenomenal. Jon Rahm's actually been a loser in his last 10 markets, just losing you less than $1, 72 cents a share over that time period. Scotty Scheffler has actually returned you a profit, but again, doing it in a volatile way. So he's an 11% ROI guy in his last 10, but only a winner in 3 markets. Now, if we open this up to 20 events, I bet you Scotty Scheffler just goes absolutely nuts here. Yeah, he does. He turns your profit in 50%. His average ROI is 44%. It's splendid stuff. But we're going to stick with kind of the shorter term here. Justin Thomas has been basically a break-even investment, while Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schofley, and Will Zalatoris have all been phenomenal buys at 29, 36, and 37% ROI. So you can mess around with this data. It's on my website, rickrungood.com. It's free. It's under free tools. All the golf data is available on the site. So you can mess around with this and find what's right for your portfolio, right? You might want only safe golfers. You might want only volatile golfers. You might want a combination of both. Understand that there's more than one way to get to these share prices and build what is best for you. I'll give you one more penny stock before we get out of here. Maybe this week's Sepp Straka. Let's try Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark just got into this event with his play at the FedEx St. Jude Championship, and I believe that this is a much better course setup for him this week than last week was. Wyndham Clark bombs it off the tee, but he's very inaccurate. With the wide fairways at Wilmington Country Club and how long it is, 7,500 yards for par 71, distance is going to come in handy, and being able to spray it a little bit is all good. He's also a very good putter. And these have large undulating greens that are going to run at 12.5 on the stimp. They're going to be fast. I love the combination of great long driver with excellent putting. And look at the Jock market history. He's been a winner in 6 out of 10. His average ROI, 52%, because that average IPO is so small, right? 339, average payout 526. You can see he paid out $11.5 per share at the RBC Canadian. He paid out $11.5 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, paid out 567 last week. That was a big win. So I think he's someone where he's not only playing well, he's going to be cheap. He doesn't have to do much to return you a profit. And I think this is one of the better course setups for him. So I'm excited about the opportunity to get access to Wyndham Clark. Okay, that'll do it. Go invest in the Jock market, get your feet wet, see what's going on for this week's BMW Championship, because the Tour Championship is going to be fun as well. And once IPO is over on Wednesday night, live trading begins. So you can start shorting and buying more and selling and it's going to be an absolute blast, especially over 4 guaranteed rounds. Let me know what you think. Tweet me at RickRunGood. This has been your Jock market preview for this week's BMW Championship. Good luck.